Hey, good morning, class. As I record this, it is Saturday morning, so good morning. Probably when you watch this, it will most likely not be Saturday and most likely not be morning. So, either way, welcome back to Introductory Psychology. Welcome back to week number 5. First, I want to say if you haven't taken exam 1 yet, please make sure you do so by Monday night. The exam is due Monday evening at 11:59 p.m. And it will close promptly regardless of whether you're done or not. So please make sure you give yourself enough time. Give yourself, at least a couple hours. And so I wouldn't start the exam at 11:30 and with much hope that you'll finish in time. So anyways, so go ahead and take care of that first. And once you're done, you're ready to move on to our next chapter. We're reading chapter 5 this week. Obviously, we're going in sequential order, so chapter 5 is next. And this chapter is a chapter on learning, so it's kind of weird. We're going to be learning about learning, kind of this meta activity, if you will. But it's one of my favorite chapters. We talk about some really big picture issues of classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational learning. 3 kind of big theories about how humans and other organisms learn, but primarily we're going to be thinking about human learning. So read chapter 5. I have posted videos, recorded lectures for chapter 5, and I actually think this is a chapter that you're probably going to want to make sure you do watch those, because some of the material, there's just a lot of terminology in this chapter, and it's very easy to mix some of it up. So I advise you to read the chapter and also make sure you're following along in the videos I post as well, just to kind of make sure your understanding kind of matches up. This chapter is pretty heavy on terminology, so and I'm going to ask you to also reflect that in this week's discussions. We are back to doing discussions again, so this week I want you to come up with your own example of classical conditioning and operant conditioning. An easy way to distinguish between these two is that classical conditioning is going to involve involuntary, sort of reflexive or instinctive behaviors, whereas operant conditioning is typically referring to voluntary, chosen behaviors. And so I've provided examples in this week's discussion for you to look at, so please use those as an example. And I'm going to be pretty picky this week on the discussion as far as like the content of your discussion. I want to make sure that you're getting this stuff, so if you are missing elements or maybe confusing elements, I'm probably going to ask you about it and ask you to correct it as well. So make sure you understand really the difference between operant and classical conditioning, and understand the terminology associated with both. Again, read the chapter, and I've posted videos that you can watch along with it as well to kind of help check your comprehension. So anyways, with that in mind, so there is a discussion. Get your initial post in by Wednesday and your follow-up peer responses by Friday, 2 of them at least. And then there is another response paper due for this week. I want you to watch a really short TED Talk. It's about 8 minutes long, and it's about phobias. Because if you're not aware, there's only a couple of phobias that are kind of innate to human beings, and one of them is falling, and supposedly one of them is snakes. You could argue about that, but most of the other phobias that we have are totally learned experiences, oftentimes learned through the process of classical conditioning. So I found a really cool TED Talk by a lady who talked about phobias and how we learn phobias. How can we unlearn them? So I want you to watch this video. And even if you don't have a phobia, maybe there's something that kind of bothers you and makes you anxious or makes you worried, and maybe you could use some of this stuff to apply it and maybe improve your quality of life in that way. So anyways, that's really it for week number 5. Take the exam if you haven't done so yet. Read chapter 5. Make sure you get your discussion in. Have a good example of operant and classical conditioning that is your own examples that come from you, your own personal experiences. And then also turn in response paper number 4 by next Sunday. So you've got about a week to do that. But anyways, that's week number 5. Feel free to respond to this video. Respond to my email that I send out with any questions, any concerns you have. Otherwise, keep up the great work, and I'll see you all next week. Take care.